African students and businessmen remaining on the streets of China's southern city of Guangzhou for a second night following the mass eviction of African nationals from hotels and apartment blocks. And the Nigerian embassy in Beijing says the government is now prepared to evacuate its citizens from China.
We have ever received any information that the government of Nigeria go to their various offices and pick them and quarantine them. You can never receive such information. The first 14 days is acceptable by us. Another 14 days, you didn't communicate to us that you are going to do another 14 days after 14 days. They have tested negative and then they have given them the paper. Why are they giving them another 14 days? That is one. Two, all the police, the documents, these passports belong to the federal government of Nigeria. In line with international practice, no any country have the right to seize the international passport of another country. Wait! They are not mad. I don't be knowing from them. I know, you have that. I said they seize it. And then you know, your deputy general, all the passports of Nigeria they seized. I see, he was released yesterday. Why are they seizing Nigerian passport? It does not belong to the China. If you seize Nigerian passport, it's like you are seizing Nigeria as a whole. It's not acceptable. That's another thing. The third one I'm going to tell you, you didn't communicate to us that you are going to go to all the Nigerian houses and then you are going to ask them to come out and go and quarantine them. Did you communicate to us? No. Nobody communicated to us.
Well, let's bring in the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Nigerians and Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri. Many thanks for joining us this afternoon on Arise Africa. In this era of false and misleading information about the pandemic of coronavirus, it is important to deal with the facts. And so let me ask you, what exactly is ongoing in China with Nigerian nationals? What is their fate? And what has been the response of your commission?
Well, there was a video of Nigerian nationals walking about the streets of China. And when I got the video, my response was, let them go to the consulate in Guangzhou. If you have a problem, go to the consulate, not just recording videos on the streets. How do they want to know? How do you want to verify or authenticate what is genuine or not? So after my statement to them, they went to the consulate in Guangzhou, and you could see the consulate official took it up with the Chinese authorities. Now, wanted to know what is going on, and there were different stories. So there are different versions of the stories. However, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, as at yesterday, has actually summoned the Chinese ambassador in Nigeria, has asked him to also to verify what is going on, and so we can clarify the issue. So there are different stories. There's a story of, oh, well, they spent 14 days in a hotel. It's time to leave. They didn't leave. There's a story of some of them came in after the coronavirus thing when the airspace were open. And when you want to stay in a hotel in China, you can't stay in any hotel if you don't have a certificate that you're corona-free. So right now, the Minister of Foreign Affairs has summoned the Chinese ambassador, and I'm sure there'll be more developments thereafter. But what the mission told them was, if indeed you want to go home, properly come and register at the mission. Then the compilation has been ongoing. We've been compiling names from different parts of the world. All the names will be sent to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who has the ultimate say as to when this evacuation will happen. And of course, there are conditions to it. Getting tested for coronavirus, when you come back, 14-day isolation, and then, of course, you need to pay for your fare for the journey. So that is the situation as I'm aware of as of today.
Thank you very much for that clarification. And I was just going to ask you, because we know the compilation is ongoing, but how soon can we get them back home, which I think you've touched on that response. But also talking about personal funding for this evacuation, what happens to Nigerians stranded in these countries who cannot afford a ticket to come back home? What happens to them? Do we leave them behind?
Let's even start with compilation. Now, two things. There are some students, for instance, that have reached out to us that they went on a course, they can't come back. Let's start with the compilation first and get the numbers. That is one. Two, for those who worry that, okay, what if they test positive? It doesn't mean you will come back home. It's just that if we know, if the NCDC knows your status, then they'll know what to do with you. So that doesn't exclude anybody, but the mode of transportation can differ. So for those who don't, let's even know the figures in the first place. So the missions are compiling, the Nigeria Diaspora Commission compiled through the website. For those who said, oh, we can't reach the missions, this is an emergency period. So we've sent everything to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So the Minister of Foreign Affairs will now look at the whole names, and it will, I guess, decision will be based on particularly numbers. The highest numbers are coming from the US and the UK. So the ultimate decision actually lies with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey Onyema. So missions have compiled, NICOM have compiled, and the minister, working with the presidential task force, will take a final decision on when that will happen.
Okay, you've told us that, students and businessmen we do know are stranded, but are these the most categories we're seeing from what you have so far? What caliber, to say, if I may ask, of Nigerians that are stranded are we looking at here?
No, basically, these are people who traveled for businesses, for vacation, for courses, for medicals. They are not Nigerians living abroad. Nigerians living abroad are still in their various countries working, affected by this COVID virus. Some are not going to be paid for months. Some have had their salaries cut. Some don't know their fate after all this. So they are basically people who travel for one thing or the other, but got stranded. Those are the various categories. So like I said, well, you have students who say, we went for a course, what do we do, and all that. But hopefully it's a temporary thing, and we all pray that this thing is resolved almost as soon as possible.
And just before I let you go, to be specific, I've been told that we did not get a clarity to that answer. Those who cannot afford to come back home, do they pay when they come here? What's the arrangement?
Why don't we know who they are first? The missions are compiling. We have compiled. Let's know who they are first and the category they are in, and then you can see what you can do. So first is to have the information. First is compilation. Yes, some say they can't come. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, like I said, the minister will take the final decision once these compilations are made, when and all that. But I think the biggest challenge is not even not being able to pay. It is not being able to do the test. So in a lot of countries, you can't do the test. In the UK, you can do the test, but go privately, but you have to pay. In some other countries, the tests are available, like in the UAE, but in the US, it's difficult. So the major challenge is getting them to do the test. Can the missions arrange something and all that? So those things are on the front burner. I think that is the biggest challenge. Let's get over that challenge and then know the numbers that can come from, and then you take it from there.
Oh, we have to thank you. Thank you so much, Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerians and Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri. Thank you, much appreciated.